Well, first and foremost, if you look at the definition of NGOs, these are non-governmental organizations. One of the person maybe who would be watching us, or two or three, would be wondering, what are we referring to? By simple definition, an NGO, this is a non-governmental organization, a non-profit group that functions independently of any government. NGOs, sometimes called civil society, are organized on community, national, international levels to serve a social or political goals such as humanitarian causes or environment. So these are the bodies that we are talking about. But Priscilla, you must understand, I was looking at history of NGOs in this country, and this is not the first time that we've seen NGOs suspended. I want to take you back in 2019, that was on the 14th of November. The Minister of State by then, that was Obiga Kanya, government announced that it had only 2,119 that is registered NGOs, and had closed business of over that is over 2,000 NGOs in this country for non-compliance. Now, when we look at this case in particular now, when the head of that is the National Executive Bureau of that governs NGOs comes out and gives this reason properly. You've said there are 54 NGOs in number. He says that out of these, we had about 15 that it was very clear they had failed to renew their licenses. And of course, given the NGO Act, or that governs NGOs in Uganda, that is 2016, it is very clear what you must do: file your returns in time, renew your licenses, and if you do not do this, then you don't have the permission to operate in this country called Uganda. So for me, first and foremost, I believe that NGOs know what the Act says. Maybe later on we should dive into the Act. One of the things that brings out very clearly that these are the terms and conditions for you to operate in Uganda. Yeah. You have to renew your license annually so that they look at how far you've been delivering in our country. They also look at, are you still on the goal? That's on the mission that you gave. Then you have to file returns. Some of these NGOs have problems declaring their source of funding. And this is where most of them find problems with government. Because government may wonder, this is a non-profit making organization. So if you're going into a lot of some have donations, some are paying school fees, government must understand. If you remember recently, Chapter 4, one of the organizations led by, that is a renowned lawyer, Nicholas Opio. Yes. The government, they're in court over that is money laundering, because sometimes this could be used to destabilize a country. So all this, one, you know there's a law in place that governs you, but also you must know that operations of NGOs, if you do not monitor them very well, they may do a disservice to you as a country.
Yes, but Robert, you're looking at a time where we've actually just come out of a 42-day lockdown. We've also had partial lockdowns over the course of the last 365 days, which have affected the activities of NGOs, both to the community, but also in terms of operation and how they can be able to operate. Sometimes the offices have actually been under lockdown, and so they've not been able to file some of these things in time, perhaps. Maybe the Bureau, instead of doing the suspension, could have created a format or a system that could give them a timeline in order for them to actually file their annual returns, renew their permits, and any other compliance that is against the Act.
To an extent, I agree with you, Priscilla, because when you look at essential workers, some of the NGOs, unless those that are doing some bit of maybe in terms of medical or relief, most of them need to have movement permits. So this could be an issue. And when you come out and say clearly that it is said out of the 54 NGOs, 33 had expired permits. 23 had expired permits. Then 15 had not filed annual returns. These are alleged to have failed to register with the authorities. So there is that element of COVID-19. And we could take that. But also when we talk about annual returns, what is your deadline? Were you in time? You'll find that when you look at the National NGO Bureau, they could have filed these as early as a number of months back. But what usually happens, and what I believe is that also sometimes NGOs come to a point of going out of their usual mandate. And sometimes we've seen many of them, if you remember when Nicholas Opio, Chapter 4, had challenges, when he had challenges, that there's so much of this international meddling and influence that goes through non-government organizations. Sometimes this could be a problem that maybe would later cause such issues to happen, that maybe they'll be looking out and saying, well, what about this? What about that?
Okay, all right. But of the 54, we have some special cases that have actually come out to give even evidence that they've actually been complying with the Act of 2016. You had a youth forum group called Youth Line Forum that had complied and actually put in all the legal requirements for them as an NGO to be able to operate. So according to their books, it's clear. The Chapter 4 that you talk about, we do have a receipt that Nicholas Opio did share on his Twitter page, and that receipt evidently shows you with a clear stamp from the Bureau showing you that they had paid for their permit and all those requirements. And that shows you that perhaps there is selective enforcement, one, and the underlying part of all this is a move to actually weaken some of these NGOs that they believe have been contributing to society in one way or another, while they're fronting civil society aid. At the back of it, you've talked about fraud. At the back of it, perhaps they're using these NGOs to do other alternative things. Isn't there another way that these cases can be handled?
First, I don't want to believe so much that it could have been political pressure, because I've been trying to look at the NGOs that were suspended, and I'll just briefly read randomly a few of them. Yes, there are 54, but if you look at some Citizen Concern Africa, you have West Ankle, a civil society forum, then you have Light Concept, you have Support the Girl Child Uganda. So there are so many that are even religious organizations, also churches, mostly under the born again, they're registered under NGOs. So there are also about 5 of them that were discontinued because of some of these issues. However, much as to a larger extent, given if they only targeted NGOs in the human rights arena, or that are doing active pressing or pressurizing government for accountability, then we would say yes. But we look at this entire 54, where you have so many that even have nothing to do with the politics of this country, nothing to do with pushing for human rights. So that is one of the things I look at. And not doubting that, yes, there could be NGOs that have gone to an extreme. But if you are to look at NGOs, I won't say SEDU, maybe Chapter 4, are the only NGOs in this country that are pushing, are pressing government to the wall in terms of human rights enforcement, that maybe we've seen are funded by some of the funders.
Speaking out for political activists. Yeah.
So if this was the target, we would have a basket containing only these particular NGOs. But where you have...
the basket you talk about, if you go to a market to buy tomatoes, there will always be one rotten tomato.
But if you look at the 54, I want to be honest, Ugandans know this is public knowledge. You'll find that maybe those in human rights are not even 10% of this. So many of them are cultural, funny group, these are religious organizations. Some are even none could know of them, apart from those about 2 or 3 outstanding non-government organizations. So that is not something I would believe. And also my other argument would be, if government was to close these NGOs, this wouldn't have been the time. We have another 5 years, if you are to look at it. That is when you are going to go into politics. We've had this process almost done and dusted completely. Then why now? That would be the biggest question. And if why now, to justify this, is at such a time NGOs a problem to government than it was in the last.
Non-governmental, again, that word alone actually states that there's minimal interference by government, except for monitoring on the activities that they do or how they do the activities that they do. But it should be minimal interference of government. Let's look at the relevance of actual NGOs in this country. We've had NGOs that have come to aid us in the fight against polio, the fight against AIDS, among other things that have affected the social livelihood of Ugandans, and they've benefited treated us as Uganda. So relevance of NGOs, before we start fighting them and suspending them and causing them to think twice about their contribution to our country.
Well, one of many among, of course, their multi-sectoral, they engage in various activities, but most of the well-known that is mobilization, sensitization, consult and aggregate citizen interest and action. Then non-governmental organizations fulfill their roles in these ways. That is agenda setting, which sometimes could also be tricky. Also policy development and implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and ensuring transparency of government programs. So yes, they do a very vital role. But like I earlier said, Priscilla, and to our viewers, in 2016, our government came up with a policy or a law that regulates non-government organizations in this country. And one of them is you must file returns. You must renew your license or your permit of operation. In time. So if it is clear this time that it wasn't just a mere suspension, there were figures, there were reasons given that 23 have not filed their returns. 15 have not renewed their licenses. These are the reasons. Now, it is upon the NGO forum, and according to the few information I've seen and interviews, they are saying this is something we can solve amicably. There was a time of COVID-19 and we were not also working. Maybe these were some of the hindrances we got. So we can discuss this with the NGO Bureau. We can discuss and see and forge our way forward. But no doubt, NGOs do great work in this committee. NGOs offer employment. I want to tell you, Priscilla, there are thousands of Ugandans that are either directly or indirectly earning bread from NGOs, these non-government organizations. And that trickles down. If, Priscilla, you're working at UBC today and you're the breadwinner of your family, if you lose a job today, it trickles down to someone whom you're paying school fees for, someone whom you're paying health bills for. So there's a multiplier effect that trickles down to a number of people. So when you have non-government organizations, given the group roles that they play, but you also look at how many families are going to be affected, even if you're just to sample that, maybe one NGO
because the suspension means that you pause work until you correct what you have.
And who knows if they'll all be able to correct what they have.
Okay, all right. You talked about amicability. How do you then recommend that both the Bureau on behalf of government and the NGOs that are affected, 54 in number, actually have a sit down on a round table and come up with resolutions to actually deal with this faster?
Why I see this is something they can expedite, the reasons are known for the closure. You know, there are times when something can happen and it is, you know, you have to sit down and then discuss from a range of issues. So if these are the facts being given by government, renewing, filing your returns, then just asking for a grace period. That yes, we had COVID-19, give us a period of 2 or 3 months so that we ensure this is in place. Because these NGOs have been around, they have been filing these things. So it is something they can do, unless there are other reasons, that maybe there is something hidden under the carpet. But what reasons government has put, these are solvable issues. It's all about the time you expedite this. If it is your returns, file them. If it is renewing your license, go to the NGO Bureau, renew your license, then go back into business. Yes.
Okay, all right. We do have the case of Nicholas Opia and the 4th chapter rights group. Them in particular, first of all, the receipt that they displayed on Twitter is the evidence for them. And on Twitter, he actually posted and said, we'll be writing to the National Bureau of NGOs, reminding them of this and other documents filed with them and other authorities in January this year. And he actually talks about the audited accounts and the source of funding, etc., always acting above board and repudiate any representation of unlawfulness, and they go ahead to even share a receipt to just show a little bit of evidence that we have actually been doing a part. Now let's go back to, that's the picture of the receipt slip for them from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the National Bureau of NGOs. That shows you that they have evidence. Now this indicates 2 things. 1, it could be political persecution for some groups in there. 2, it could show you the backlog that perhaps is happening in the Bureau, that by the time the Bureau leadership decided that, you know what, anyone in this category suspended, and yet perhaps their payments or verification process is actually a lagging process in the Bureau?
Well, Priscilla, like I earlier said, now this is going to bring out the truth. Because I said the reasons the NGO Bureau put in place are rectifiable. You know, are rectifiable. If there are any mistakes, this is something that you can simply handle. If Nicholas or Pio, that is chapter 4, what they are putting up is factual that they did, and the reasons you've given the media, this was at the media center, that okay, failure to file their returns, then renewing their permits. If there is concrete evidence that this was done, then you have to lift the suspension. So this will mean that either if there is more than what meets the eye, this is the time that government is going to be beaten at its own game. If the reality is these NGOs have not filed, then later they do file, they're going to be beaten at their own game of looking for excuses. So for me, I know that there is no reason they gave that really we find very hard to prove. It's not like maybe you talk about money laundering, where you have to go investigate the source of money and all this. No, this is clear. 2 reasons, clear. You can sort them out. So for me, I'm very optimistic that yes, they're going to resume their business. And if government doesn't manage this very well, then it is going to show that this is political persecution. If Nicholas Opio's receipts are valid and everything is clear, then Mr. Okero Stephen, you've lost it. If it is proved that this is self-defense, then the NGOs will have lost it.
Okay, in your parting shots in this particular subject matter?
For me, I want to say that there's nothing we should treasure in this country, no matter the benefits we get out of it, if it jeopardizes national security. Many times, NGOs have been used as a channel to cause destabilization of countries' economies and political arena. So, for whatever benefit it is, let's ensure that NGOs stick to their mandate, because if not, then we may end up in a situation where many countries have gotten to, because he who pays the piper determines the tune. More so, if his intentions are full of negativity for that country, that can happen. But we believe this is something that can be sorted should these be the real reasons that government has put forward.
Okay. All right. Well, at the end of the day, we look forward to NGOs and the Bureau having a roundtable engagement, constructive engagement that can allow this sector to actually continue thriving, because at the end of the day, they contribute to the development of Uganda socially and economically. But also, the task for the Bureau would be is that under COVID-19, when things have actually changed so much and affected the NGOs also in particular, maybe now is the time to also go back to the drawing board and revisit some of those compliances in the Act of 2016 for NGOs and help them adhere to what they do around and amidst COVID-19. That would be a very good recommendation. Back to our poll question, we were talking about recent matters that are cumbersome in Masaka. We want to know from you, in your response, how can this insurgency be put to an end in this country? Hashtag EBCJMU. Some of you have responded to this conversation. We do have good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Cricket Derek Gagamel, as usual, from Machindi Ruafu. I think the only solution to the endless murder is government putting strict laws like death penalty. There was talk about death penalty. And in this sense,
yes, one time said it is still existing in our law books. And I think I should revisit and see if we can start implementing it. Because 2 weeks, 5 people.
All right. To such heartless people who kill and seriously cause harm to others, but minus that, we shall lose our beloved ones. Thanks for the show. We do have GMU. To the resurgency ending of murders, we need to intensify night patrol, also form village security teams, and also have patrols that turn to Mayumba Komi. That's a project that once existed, sort of died out, but perhaps
and
Mayumba
Komi
is
very
project
important. That is how we arrested Chidawalime, because the village was vigilant, and when this lady communicated, they sounded an alarm and they were able to round Chidawalime and his colleagues.
Okay, all right. Christmas Kamanzi, I think think government should start using quality CCTV and also alarm systems, and perhaps especially on commercial sites and public places in Masaka would go a long way to help sort out the matters that are happening in Masaka. For those of you that are asking where Felix Nkunda is on a break, and he's somewhere enjoying life, refreshing, and he'll be back on Good Morning Uganda sometime soon. Away from that, we now get to look at the tabloids in the Vision and the Daily Monitor, and also in the East African region. What is making headlines with a news review this morning?
This is Good Morning Uganda.
My home, I smile when I think of you, Uganda. My home. My home, I dance when I look at you, Uganda. My home, oh my Uganda.
I know with you I'll always stay forever. I know, because I feel that we belong together. My home, under the sun so bright, under the moon at night, on my heart, mommy, oh my Uganda.
Hey, mama.
My Uganda, my Uganda, my Uganda, my Uganda. Nigokona, my Uganda. Amari, alemira, my Uganda,
Nyowe nikugonza.
my Uganda,
Amina ngojo, Amina ngojo.
my Uganda.
At MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It is a heavy breakfast we serve you every morning, full of information, a bit of entertainment, and of course, setting the agenda and the pace for you throughout the day. So make it a point to ensure you start your day a very informed person when you choose this show out of the many, because we are committed to ensuring we do that. So an informed person is one who starts the day with GMU, and that is Good Morning Uganda from 6:30 to the hour of 9. It's now time we serve you something that is in the print media. I have the Daily Monitor and Priscilla has the New Vision. Beginning with the Daily Monitor, Army warns on travel to travel to South Sudan after 7 are killed. So that is the Army is warning, please do not travel to South Sudan after 7 Ugandans have been killed there. Then we see Uganda Airlines Airbus gets operator certificate. Joy for our national carrier there. The cranes will fly high, and of course, let's support it. It's not all about buy Uganda, build Uganda, travel with Uganda as well. Also, look at the Daily Monitor brings you tensions high in West Nile over plague scare that is in Democratic Republic of Congo. And still, Janet tells teachers, no jobs, no school. That is the First Lady tells teachers, no job, no jobs. So you either get vaccinated or you quit the teaching profession. That is one of the ways we shall have our schools resume or reopen as soon as possible. Actor Chizito hopes to build his mother a house. That is one of Uganda's actors that is making, yes, of late. Over the social media, there's so much regarding this young man. He's very good at what he does, that is acting, and one of the dreams is to build the mother a house. We still have UAC most improved and declined schools. The Daily Monitor gives you which schools by district, and of course you get more of this in the education and the outcomes. Then police to charge MP Mwejushia's driver over death of 3 people in an accident. Priscilla with the New Vision.
For the New Vision this morning, at the top corner, we get to look at how USCE stars performed at O-level. So for every candidate that actually boated or killed it and got good aggregates in A-level, they bring you the O-level version of their results there. In black and white, Amison describes him as a man of character and honor locatories parting police orders. That is on the front page of the New Vision. In pictorial for New Vision, we look at transplant theatre, ready but no supporting law. On the side, we do see a picture there of the First Lady giving tips to women on self-esteem and confidence, a story you can find on page 5. And then locally, we get to look at local governments fail to utilize 407 billion. Study with us, Senior 6 Chemistry, Mathematics plus Senior 1 Biology. Public urged to embrace herbal medicine. What do you have on the second page?
On the second page of the Daily Monitor, I'll begin with what is happening in Kenya. Good news where Kenya police arrest 2 suspected terrorists. Police in Mombasa, that is yesterday morning, intercepted and arrested 2 terrorist suspects at Likoni Crossing Channel. Still back home, we have Chambogo ex-staff denied deleting data. That is 5 former staff of Chambogo University have hit back at the Vice Chancellor, Professor Eli Katunguka, for accusing them of deleting data from the institution's system. We look at the archives, and there is a picture of Queen Elizabeth II Center greets Genos, that is Sir George, greets the Commander-in-Chief of the East African Army after her arrival at Entebbe International Airport. This was in 1926. Still, today in history, major, that is, we look at, okay, the killer in Norway massacre is sentenced. It was on this date, the 24th of August, but the year 2012, yes, where we see the killer in Norway massacre was murdered. But also the Daily Monitor brings you more regarding the editor's pick, where they look at cutting pay has become common during COVID-19 pandemic as measures for companies to stay in business.
Okay, we get to have a facts and myth. COVID-19, what should I do to shop safely? But COVID-19 second wave update there, they give you an update both on world totals and Uganda tracker. In summary for Uganda tracker, we do have new cases confirmed 104, positivity rate at 3.1%, and new death toll at 8 people that have passed away in the last 24 hours. You also get to look at a picture there of a father and a child. He's riding a bicycle. Busia district is where that picture was taken from, and it actually brings home sentiment to the fact that men and fathers do contribute a lot, a great deal to society today. Karamajong treat twins as a blessing ahead of the Kampala Twins Festival, double fun that the New Vision is preparing. And today in history, we get to look at this very same day back in 2006, Tumukunde acquitted, and also on August 24th, 1962, African delegations plead with UN Secretary General for Mandela's release.
Looking at the Daily Monitor Sport, we have the Lady Doves Taxiel flight of faith to Nay, and also that is in Nairobi. And we have Orangat says has many offers. Looking at the Uganda fastest sprinter, there in the Daily Monitor. What should we expect? There's so much. And FIFA Afro Basket, we have Tunisia gets game rolling. The Silverbacks are due for their final prep session before they face Senegal tomorrow in its final start.
In the new vision for sports, you do look at forecast. We'll give it our best Afro Basket Championships. We do have fixtures against Senegal, Cameroon and South Sudan starting tomorrow. And who is in the hunt? But if you get into the deep of new vision, Olympics review is what they're also bringing you. Jacob Kiplimo, most gifted Ugandan athlete of his golden generation. I will sort out Villa. And these are statements from Medad Segona, as he has put out his manifesto for SC Villa presidency. Well, that brings us to the wrap of the papers. Chirabo, any reactions? I've seen a very interesting story inside here. ShopRite, that has been in this country for a very long time, is going to be packing up its bags and leaving, as you look at the Daily Nation.
Well, ShopRite, it is a hard time because when they pack up their bags, that means employment and, of course, contribution to our coffers as a government. But if they find it no longer that conducive to have business, yes, this is something that runs at making business all about profits and maximization of profits. So if you're just operating below the line, then maybe you have to look for a better atmosphere. Maybe you're not just getting right what you should be doing to get business standing in Uganda. But the good thing is more are coming in as few are leaving.
Okay.
Daily Nation, Raila's big blow. What is that? As they prepare for the elections next year, the Daily Nation brings you that. Still, how police foiled that is a coastal terror attack, something that also the Daily Monitor has reported here. But still in the Daily Nation, yes, that story also was in the Daily Monitor this morning. Still, all you need to know about that is Moderna vaccine, still so much regarding vaccination and the vaccines. Then police officer kills lover in hospital bed. Wow, what an incident. Where's the world heading to? And still in the Daily Nation, we see, okay, but to get more of these stories, you have to have a copy of the Daily Monitor, the New Vision and the Daily Nation as well. I'll now return to the traffic officer.
Thank you so much, Robert. For our traffic update this morning, we want to take it from Chiraka, just a sneak peek into Bergere, and also see other parts of maybe Namgongo Road and Chaliwatala, how the traffic is looking like in that particular direction. As you can see, coming in from Kampala, and that is also Spear Motors, past Banda, you enter into Chiraka Trading Center, where there's a lot of orange and red zones. It's a trading center, and the highway, that's the Kampala Jinja Highway route, is very narrow. Equally, also shops are on the road, which does affect the flow of jam in this particular area. So that is why you're seeing lots of red zone stretches all the way into the bypass flyover and into Chireka. That's how it's looking like this morning. So if you're coming from this particular direction, you would have wanted to use the alternative routes, which would be Chireka Road. But also Chireka Road is having a lot of red zones entering Kampala, and that red zone is actually stretching all the way into Nakawa. Away from that, when we have a sneak peek into Bwegere, we get to see that even then, with the trading center there, we do have some jam that is building up in this particular area. The trading center that brings in traffic all the way from what people will use as the alternative route past Nambole and want to rejoin the Kampala Jinja Highway right here at the trading center, but also the stretch of red that shows you the traffic that is coming in from Mukono is heavily dense around Bwegere, entering into the heart of the city, which is going to slow down traffic at this particular time. But we want to go back to the Kampala Northern Bypass, which interfaces with Kamuli Road and also Namugongo Road. We want to have a sneak peek into these territorials and see how it's actually looking like. Following Namugongo Road is what connects you to Chaliwatala, and except for the sharp corners within the trading areas, you don't expect some jam coming in from these particular areas up until we come come to the road that actually has an intersection with the Kampala Northern Bypass, which also again doesn't show any particular jam. And then we get into Ndiwulira Road that brings in traffic. Then you also get to see that you do have some traffic that is building up towards Chaliwajara Trading Center. And that is where you would be expecting that at the trading center you should be seeing some traffic coming in from Namgongo, Chaliwajara and the areas of Chira this morning. And yes, surprisingly, a sneak peek into that particular territorial, you do only have an orange zone coming in from Chaliwajara, Chira, Chaliwajara, also from Namgongo. That's a stretch heading to Namgongo. So possibly there's a commuter taxi park here that is contributing to the flow of traffic there. And then you would be expecting that most, especially the fact that these are residential areas, that is why you're having some bit of jam in the Chaliwajara Trading Center. Away from the trading center, it's connecting you to the Nalia Namgongo Road, which on any given day, at any given hour of the day, it would be having a lot of jam. Surprisingly, that this morning it shows you green, which means that yes, there's jam or there's traffic, but it's motion traffic. Nothing much is causing a hiccup. Well, originally the best cause of jam in this area was the fact that there's so many schools on the Nalia Namgongo Road, Vienna College Namgongo inclusive. There are a couple of other schools that are on this particular Glorious Kids. You do have a lot of schools here, but because of COVID-19, schools are under lockdown. Now people can freely breathe while using Nalia Namgongo Road, which would then bring you back to what we have as the bypass construction there. Past St. Peter's Secondary into Nalia. The rest of the route actually looks clear until it starts to connect to the Kampala Northern Bypass. So from Nalia into the Kampala Northern Bypass, of course temporarily closed for now. There's alternative routes that have been created, diversionary routes that have been created for people that want to move away from that particular area and perhaps head back into the likes of Bwegere and connect to Mukono and the eastern part of Uganda. Which connection here we get to see some orange zones there for the bypass, again because of the construction that is happening and also the fact that there's construction trucks that are putting offloading things, sand and the construction material. Really, it's affecting how the jam is flowing. But if you just follow that curve, you get to see that then it opens up and allows you to actually stop by Ivan's Pork Joint Grill, enjoy some pork for the morning, and then continue on your way on the Kampala Northern Bypass, which is going to bring you back and drop you right where we left it off, and that is in Namgongo, which then will still continue dropping you. If you continue with this very same straight, it's going to bring you all the way to where we have been, and that is the place called Nambole Roundabout heading into Bwegere. So that's a very nice back route to avoid the Chireka Road. If you're heading to the eastern part of the city, Bwegere and the likes, perhaps the alternative route would be the Kampala Northern Bypass. Enter it from Ntinda, Chiwatule Road, head to Nalia Road, get onto the bypass, and it will bring you right to the Nambole Stadium. That way you would have avoided the long stretch that is building up from Chireka all the way to Spear Motors. That's a traffic update for you this morning on Good Morning Uganda. Molen Kenyana joins us yet again. Good to have you back, Molen.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And I want to look at what is making headlines in terms of whether now we continue to see effects of Tropical Storm Henry, which is now being upgraded to a hurricane, also affecting Massachusetts this morning. And also we have seen more tropical storms developing for the Caribbean, also at hurricane category 3, causing more and more effects to the side of Mexico and mostly the Caribbean region, where we also had an earthquake earlier. So that is also devastating news coming over throughout that area, especially the Caribbean.
Okay, all right. For your contribution, you talked about we've been talking about Masaka and the deaths that have been happening in Masaka. How do we bring an end to this murder insurgents in the country?
Yeah, I think that this has been an ongoing thing. We did see murders in like the ones in Entebbe, Nkumba, and I think most of those have really not been solved. And I think government needs to come in and look at the best way to look at this, to curb this. We can't keep having more insurgencies of these scenarios because people are losing their lives. And it could be the same circle, people going around killing people. I don't know with which motives, but yes, there is need for government to intervene and also our security forces to actually make sure that there is enough measures. I know that we can end this. We have managed as a country, we have managed to end wars. I mean, our contribution to Somalia, Central Africa, we cannot fail to now attack small insurgencies in our countries that are claiming Ugandans' lives. I think there is need to make this a priority and make sure that we don't lose any more people to such murders, for sure.
All right, well, an SMS here is telling of those who kill priests or anybody should also be killed by the government. Tit for tat is only a fair game. But again, at the end of the day, let us be a brother's keeper and one another's keeper. It's your community, my community, and our Uganda. We must love each other at the end of the day. Mwalen Kenyana taking you through weather, nature, and climate. At 8 o'clock, we're going to be having a conversation about how our very own Ugandans in Afghanistan are faring and what is actually the way forward for them being brought back home, alongside other labor-related conversations.
Well, thank you, Priscilla. Now, following the effects of Tropical Storm Henry, there has been insurgencies or flooding in the city across Tennessee. Now, reports that are coming in at least 4 hours ago show that there has been continued flooding across Tennessee, and this has claimed lives and property across the area. There is also a tidal wave over Tennessee that is still affecting the area. Now, we're following more on that story, and we will be giving you updates also coming in across the Caribbean, now more specifically in Haiti, where we did see the earthquakes earlier this month. It also continues to have effects of the hurricane, that is Hurricane Grace, ongoing across the region, also affecting the part of Mexico. But also in other news, today we are starting on the World Water Week, and that is being spearheaded by the World Meteorological Organization. Now, mostly we are looking at water resources. We are looking at the value of water in terms of our weather and climate. Now, the hydrological cycle is very important. How we acquire water, where it goes after that. There is a cycle. There is a reason why we do have water that is we don't lose it. It kind of replenishes. So that means that there is a cycle, and anything that alters our environment, anything that alters our climate can be an effect to our water resources. Now, the World Meteorological Organization is taking this week to actually declare and create more awareness on the value of water in terms of our weather and climate. That is a developing story as well, and we'll be looking at the proceedings from what is being launched today, and I'll give you more details tomorrow in our segment here, Weather and Nature. But today we want to look at our satellites across the country, what the weather was like in the night into the early hours of today morning. Now, mostly we did start off with those light rains, but those were developing into scattered showers, especially across the Kyoga region. That area did have rains even up to now. Parts of Nakasongola, Kamuli, Palisa, those areas continue to have rainy conditions, and basically all that area across the Kyoga region is experiencing those rainy conditions. We expect those to spread through, and they will be moving westwards, especially towards midwestern Uganda, Masindi, Fort Portal. That area can expect to have that system move through, and we'll be bringing you some light rains. Well, we do have that rain system also coming from the northern part of the country. That system will be moving southwards and likely to bring us rains, especially for northern Uganda and the upper side of Karamoja. You can look out for those rainy conditions. Now, also have those cloudy conditions starting to form. That is south of Lake Victoria, still to the Tanzanian side. but we do expect that system to continue, especially to the east, and that will be propagating also to the western part of Lake Victoria. That is where we have Masaka, Rengo, Lyantonde. That area can expect to have light rains as the morning progresses. Now, most areas within the country right now are dealing with mostly cloudy conditions, sunny skies across southwestern Uganda, also for the Karamoja region, parts of eastern Uganda. But we're also seeing those clouds that are starting to develop across the central part of Lake Victoria. That is where we have Kampala still having those cloudy conditions. We do expect most areas to develop rainy conditions over that region. Now, in our forecast this morning, we start off with southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, we have Ibanda, Bushenyi, Rubirizi. We're forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions and temperatures starting off at a cool 24 degrees centigrade. That is quite a cool morning over there. If you're moving out, you have to get ready for that. Now, looking at Mount Elgon Highlands, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and temperatures are likely to be at 25 degrees centigrade. Well, looking at eastern part of Lake Victoria, we do have a forecast for a mix of clouds and sunshine, where we have Tororo, Bosia, Iganga, also starting off with a cold morning at 25 degrees centigrade, but we do expect temperatures to rise up as we head into the afternoon over that area. Also likely to have development of light rains, but that will be later in the day. And looking at eastern Uganda, we are already seeing those cloudy conditions and rains across that area for some areas in Kamuli, extending to Soroti, Palisa, but we do expect more rains to propagate across Katakuya, Moria, Kumi this morning. Also, temperatures are expected at 25 degrees centigrade. Well, looking at the eastern side of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, we're forecasting light rains. Those will be across several places, and temperatures starting off at 25 degrees centigrade. Contrary to what we had yesterday, we did start off with a 27. I think these temperatures dropping down have much to do with the weather being experienced over that area even for now, and the rainy conditions that are expected over there. You can't expect that system to stay, and will be there as we head into the afternoon. Well, the central part of northern Uganda, we have Ajumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel. We're forecasting those isolated showers already having that system move through. It will be bringing us rains across at least 20% of the forecast area. Also starting off at a cool 23 degrees centigrade. That's quite a cold weather over there, but we do expect numbers to go up as the day progresses. Still, that will be in upper 20s. Now, the central part of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Kampala, we have Entebbe, Wakiso, Mukono in that category. We do expect those light rains to come through as more clouds start developing, also starting off at a cool 25 degrees centigrade over there. Well, most of that system will actually be continuing even to the western part of Lake Victoria, that is the Masaka side, and Lyantonde, Rengo, that area can also expect to have those light rains as the morning progresses. Well, that is it from weather and nature, but we do have your comments coming through, and very interesting. Priscilla, I'm seeing you with comments from Jagenda Semakula. You know, Jagenda is very interesting when it comes to these conversations. He really makes sure he puts it to the point. What is Jagenda saying this morning, Priscilla?
The conversation that I was having with Shirabo about ShopRite finally saying that they're packing up their bags this time round. We do have a comment that he responded to, which stated, in November 2019, Africa's largest retailer, ShopRite, said it was considering leaving sub-Saharan Africa because of low revenue, and they say that their highest profits actually come from their home market, which is South Africa. Now, this is a store that is originally from South Africa. In Jagenda Semakula's response, in July 1988, when Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere visited Uganda, he said, "We cannot unite to be rich, but we can unite to fight the enemy." Not exact words. We are not producers, but also we are failing to consume, which is a tough one. We're not producers, but we're also failing to consume, which is a challenge on the economic globe. Anyway, Jagenda Semakula is our host for for Good Morning Uganda Extra that comes in 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock every single morning, Monday to Thursday. So please do expect him after Ruben Pima Chibirango comes through with our sports update, still on Good Morning Uganda. Have yourselves a wonderful day. As you continue, Molen has shown you that it could rain somewhere somehow. So on a daily, for at least this rainy season, make sure that your essential good in your bag or in your vehicle is an umbrella. You just do not know when the rains are going to come, but you must be prepared nevertheless. Coming up is Robert Tirabo with Good Morning Uganda Agenda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175*94# to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175*94# to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175# and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome to English in a Minute. This expression sounds like a guessing game about food.
Jonathan, I can't find anyone to watch my cat while I'm away. And I have asked everyone.
You haven't asked me. What am I? Chopped liver?
Jonathan, the last time you watched my cat, you put her in a cat prison.
It was a pet spa.
We use this expression when we feel upset at being overlooked or ignored. It's another way of saying, what about me? In parts of America, chopped liver is traditionally served as a side dish and not the main course. So it's a food that is more easily forgotten. And that's English in a Minute.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
I smile when I think of you, Uganda, my home. My home, I dance when I look at you, Uganda, my home. Oh, my Uganda.
I know, with you I'll always stay forever. I know,
MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to the hour of 8, and that is now time for Good Morning Uganda agenda. This is a time where we have a guest in our studios and we discuss an issue of national concern where the guest gives us his opinions, views and understanding of the topic of discussion. This morning we are going to be looking at the situation in the Middle East and how best Ugandans can get back home. The Middle East has been dominated sometime with wars. Recently we saw what happened then also in Afghanistan, and there were so many concerns, Ugandans, right from Parliament. How do we get our people back home? But fortunately, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development came out and said there are no Ugandans in Afghanistan. There are no Ugandans in Afghanistan. Now we go to a man who has been in this business of ensuring that Ugandans find employment in the Middle East and other countries. And this is the CEO of Ngos Limited, one of the companies that is handling labor exportation. This is Ashe Chitandwe. Ashe, you're most welcome to our studios this morning.
Thank you very much, Robert. I'm glad to be here and hope we're going to have a wonderful program.
And I'm also very eager to hear from you and, of course, ask in the interest of the public what they would want to know regarding this. To begin with, Ashe, you've been in this business for a long time. I call it a service because when you're finding employment for people, it is very important that they get monies they couldn't be getting home and fend for their families.
That's right.
First and foremost, how easy is this business?
Robert, this
of late, most of the time of COVID-19.
First of all, of course, there have been challenges as far as this business is concerned. With the COVID coming in and affecting a few areas where we normally pick from, it has affected households. You know, we look at the whole cycle, and if there is nothing coming in, that means children won't get the best diet because the parents don't have the money. The sick probably won't get treated because their children are not earning to take them to hospital and stuff like that. So that has affected our social setting as well. But on the other hand, when you look at, for us as people who find this employment, of course there've been opportunities created because some people have left those particular countries, and our people are replacing them. So that is an opportunity. So it is a bit of this and that. But to directly answer your question, we have many things we've lost. For example, if you remember, Robert, we shared our remittances. For last year, we were able to bring in $1.1 billion. And yet the previous year, that was 2019, we were able to bring in $1.4 billion. So that means we lost $300 million in between that. So it shows you it was a very tough situation. But since we've been, actually the government has been able to, reopen, and I really want to commend the government on the second lockdown. They were able to let the airport open so that people could go, could travel. I think that was a very brilliant idea, and it has helped us to kind of recover, and we are on our way on to recovery.
One of the most areas we know where many of these organizations are now finding a fertile ground is domestic workers, but training centers had been closed. The last I had, I'm not sure if they have been opened. So how has this affected people in this business?
Yeah, truth of the matter is that, Robert, that has been a very big issue, because you see, for example, right now, since the training centers are still closed, we don't have any new entrants. Because you see, it's a prerequisite for you to get a clearance from the Ministry of Labour have been trained. So if they're not training, that means we don't have any new people coming in. Now that can put us in a very awkward situation, because if the pool that you already had that had been trained and has now traveled during during COVID and now, so you're left with nothing. That means that there is nothing going on. But I know through our leadership and the training center's leadership, I know they're trying to sort out that issue. But yes, it has affected us. Yes, please.
Well, the way you enter determines the way you will live.
Right.
And this brings us to the topic of discussion this morning, that is extraditing, that is workers from the Middle East. First and foremost, let's best understand how do these workers go there, because recently I was Honorable Okero Oliem was very clear. He said, in these countries you have people who don't even know how they got there. We can't trace them, we can't help them because they did not follow proper channels. So let's first look at the entry, the legal, the illegalities in terms of how Ugandans access some of these areas. Just to add on this, we know there are countries who don't even expect Ugandans to be there as domestic workers. But they're there in hundreds, in thousands. So let's begin with the entry before we look at the exit in terms of an emergency.
Right, Robert. Thank you very much for that very good question. First of all, Robert, we need to understand two things. One, if you go through the formal channels, your government will know where you are. If you go through informal channels, the government won't be able to know where you are. And here the database, if I may call it, is the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Because they're the ones that clear Ugandans to go and work in these countries. So if they don't have your information, then of course they can't trace you. Secondly, people go through informal channels, which is very, very unfortunate. Because when incidents like what has happened in Afghanistan do happen, then your government can't help you because they don't know where you are. They don't even know you're there. So it becomes a very, very difficult situation for you. But, one, go through a licensed company and make sure that the job you're going for has been authorized by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. You have a clearance as you're leaving the airport. You have a ticket, of course. Then the government knows where you've gone. Then in case something happens to you, we have a system. For example, when you mention domestic workers, Robert, domestic workers are allowed to work in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia only at the moment. Only. That's where we are allowed to externalize domestic workers. But you find, like you said, you find domestic workers in countries like Oman, where we're not allowed to externalize them.
Well, we have an estimate over 5,000 Ugandans, domestic workers.
Actually, over 30,000. 30,000 Ugandans. So that is why we need to make sure that we use proper channels. Secondly, if you look at a country like Oman, for example, where we have over 30,000, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is now in the process to see how they can formalize their stay in this, in this particular country through signing a labour bilateral agreement. But that, of course, is now firefighting on our side because we have people there, we don't know how many are there. Rather, of course, we have estimates, but we don't know the actual number. Then, how do you help them to legalize their stay in this country, but also to be productive and into productive and safe employment? So that becomes very difficult because we don't know how many. But on the other hand as well, Robert, that is trafficking, of course.
Because a layman would wonder how a person would leave Entebbe to Afghanistan, and one would think automatically the government knows because you're going through the airport. So when we talk about legal stay, legal channels of going to these places, it's very important that we explain. Then also how illegal people are in these countries, or what makes them illegal in these countries, or hard for government to trace them.
First of all, Robert, if you've left this country and you've gone to Dubai, most Ugandans use Dubai as their transit area. They get visiting visas. Visas normally got off. Actually, they're done online. You just contact a travel agency, they apply, and then you get it within 2 to 3 days. You have your visa. So what they do, they leave Uganda, go to Dubai, and then from Dubai, that's when now they connect through traffickers. Okay, when you get to Dubai, this is what is going to happen. So they find you a visitor's visa to a third country. Then in the end, of course, for us, as far as the records are concerned, you went to Dubai, but you're not in Dubai, and you're supposed to be in Dubai for 3 months because that's what your visitor's visa says. But when you get to Dubai, you find your way to a third country. So that is where the problem starts. If you leave this country and you want to go and work, please, you're supposed to have an employment visa. You must have secured a job through an agency like what we do. An agency secures for you a job opportunity. The Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development vets that job opportunity. Then it clears you. Then you're vetted as well that you're clean, you're someone of good conduct and stuff like that.
That is the Interpol.
Yes, Interpol and of course JIC. That's the Joint Intelligence Committee. It helps you. Then after all that, then you're able to travel safely. You have a clearance that takes you to country X. You know exactly the kind of job you're going to do, how much money you're going to earn. All these agreements are well stipulated in these contracts and stuff. So after that has been done, then you're free to go with your visa and stuff. You go and work. So if you get a problem along your employment there, along the way there, then the government knows who to ask. If Robert, I've taken you to Qatar, for example, as a builder or a construction worker, and something happens to you, I'm answerable to the government. Because it's me who went to look for these opportunities. That means I must have done my due diligence. And part of the solution that we've been doing now, or carrying out now, is to make sure that we involve our embassies. For example, if I go to Qatar right now, like the regulation the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development recently passed, you need to work. For example, Qatar as a country, all job orders coming from that country have to be vetted by our embassy or our mission in Qatar first. If the embassy finds this credible and stuff like that, then they recommend. And then once we apply for a job order approval to the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, then it's clean, it's clear, so the embassy knows. This it has done its due diligence as well on this particular company. So once all that has been done, then the government knows exactly where you are, Robert, and they know who is responsible.
So talking about government knowing where you are and who is responsible, actually, for Afghanistan it is a war.
Right.
But we've had a couple of Ugandans either get injuries or lose lives in these Middle East countries, not necessarily a war or fall of a building or get sick. So what is the plan of repatriating or extraditing these people back home? Do we have a policy? Do we have the laws? So how do we go about this?
Right. Thank you, Robert, for that very good question. First of all, Robert, all these things are in the contract. In case there is a death, what happens? The Ugandan company works with a company X, for example, let me say in Saudi Arabia, and they work with the family as well, and the Ministry of Labour here, and the embassy. So it's a team. Yes, there is this death. It's reported to the embassy. It's reported to the Ministry of Labour. Then the company here works with the company in that particular country, the embassy there, and our Ministry of Labour, to ensure that there is a proper way of repatriating, this particular person in case they've died. But also, when you look at the issue of Afghanistan, for example, yes, like you've brought it up, it's true. In Afghanistan, there were no Ugandans. You know why, Robert? Because when the withdrawal plan by the US government was drawn, all US contractors, because remember our Ugandans have been working with US contractors, prime contractors, so they had to draw up also a withdrawal plan much earlier. So most of all those Ugandans had already left before all this happened. So that is the reason why we don't have any Ugandans. But that takes you back to what I've been explaining. Once you go through formal channels, even now, your withdrawal and your evacuation and all these things are well planned. So in the end, you don't have these challenges. But when we don't know where you are, it becomes very difficult. Robert.
So rightly, we've talked about those that go through the formal channels. For Afghanistan's case, how sure are we? Because yes, the ministry communicated this. How sure are we with high levels of that is human trafficking? We also have Ugandans disappearing. That even some in the Middle East who have gone through formal companies. Then reach a point and disappear of Vivian. Then it becomes hunting for them, looking for them. They went through, their entry was very clear. Legal to the lighter. But when they reach there, of course, they're either schemers, they're tipped off of opportunities, and they are gone.
Right. Robert, I'll tell you something very interesting. You see, a country like Afghanistan, for example, unless you're contracted by company X from a particular country, there hasn't been much going on. And that is why you've been having US contractors, British contractors running these projects. And our particular project has been in security as Uganda, working with the US Department of State prime contractors. So there is no way you're going to disappear, because your employer is basically the US prime contractor. That is your employer. That means there is no way you're going to disappear. But if you go to a country like Dubai, that is very, a country like the United Arab Emirates, where Dubai is, that is a very big problem, because there is an easy way of getting into Dubai, and that is having a visitor's visa. Once you have that, then you can reach there and do whatever. And such people, they've gotten issues, and now they remember looking for the embassy, to help them solve their issues. Yes, the embassy is there to give consular services to Ugandans, but there is no way you're going to go to Dubai, leave what you've left that took you there, and find yourself something else, and not need help from the embassy to return home. Because you need them. The documents have expired, things are not clear. Exactly. So for me, I want to appeal to Ugandans. Go through proper channels and secure employment. Opportunities are very many out of this country. But go through proper channels so that in case you get a problem, then we are able to help you return home in a safe way. But also, it's not safe for you to go and disappear in country X, for example. You run away. Because now, for example, in Saudi Arabia, Robert, you find girls who have been taken to work as domestic workers, and then they run away. And guess what? There is a very big group of drivers that has been doing this in particular. So they go get them, probably take them into prostitution and these funny things. Then in the end, you see audios and videos on social media. Bana Uganda, Tulieno, company But what they are not telling is that the company that took them to work in this particular area, they abandoned it and decided to run away and go and do their own things. But when the situation gets to their necks, then they are able to. That's when now they remember. It's company X that brought us here. So that story is not normally picked up by the media. The media picks up the end. That's the most unfortunate thing. But if you look at in between and look at this person's journey, you realize, if you find serious journalists like you, Robert, I know you find that out, and I'm sure you know this. So that is where the problem is, Robert. That is where the problem is.
Talking about for now, Afghanistan, we know that, yes, according to what the ministry is telling us, what an independent mind in this business also alludes to as factual is we do not have Ugandans in Afghanistan that are stranded or stuck there unless evidence is induced because of the contracts and all that. But when it comes to externalization of labor in our country, I remember one time the Saudi Arabian government felt like closing us down because of the negative publicity they were receiving from Ugandans in Saudi Arabia, most of the domestic workers. What efforts have we put in place to ensure that these tainting stories, that is between the two governments, and of course creating these heartbreaking stories. Some of the times we see over the media, a Ugandan was tortured, some come with broken ribs. How do we get to the end of this?
Right. Robert, first of all, we've made very, very big strides in the area of training. We now train our people better, and actually I know the ministry very soon will be coming out. I think they might even extend the number of days for the training.
Which now has been 7 days?
Yes, it's been now 7 days, but they might extend it to maybe 14 or so, or something like that. Because our people, yes, they've been trained, but I think because of the curriculum, remember this curriculum was approved by the Ministry of Labour, so they did a review recently to see is it really answering the would-be issues and stuff like that. So first of all, the training has been improved, and we're improving, by the way. But then also sensitization of our people. If you have a problem, is it best to go on social media and post a video there, or you work with the company that took you there, and the Ugandan company here, you know, when I talk about the company that took you there, I'm talking about the destination company. Then the Ugandan company, then Ministry of Labour, Foreign Affairs through the embassy, and then of course with your family. We work together as a team and see how we can help you. Because social media doesn't resolve anything. And like you rightly said, of course these countries pick up on these stories. So if you're bashing their country, you're bashing it, you know, that creates a very awkward situation as far as diplomacy is concerned with that particular country. So we don't want to get to that. But yes, it is true, there was a threat in that particular area, in that particular country, of banning Uganda completely because of some of those very unfortunate incidents. But we've tried to see how do we work together, how do we improve. And I'm not saying that there are no mistakes made in Saudi Arabia. Yes, there are some mistakes made, but they are individual. Just like here in Uganda, Robert. You know, we also have people who are not doing the right thing. Yeah, but of course the law takes its course.
The biggest question then regarding this issue would be what, let me use the word even, tracking mechanism do we have, so that at any one point our government, for a person who has gone through the legal channels of seeking employment overseas, also in the Middle East, we can at any one time have the right information. Because at times you see these people seeming as if they are deserted, they are dropped, maybe in the wilderness, and it is more of maybe modern day slavery. So a person will say, I don't know where I am, I can't connect my people, I can't get to my company. Have we, as a government, or through these bilateral agreements, come up with a proper system of tracking, monitoring these young lads, and of course the ladies as well, when they're carrying out employment there? Right.
Actually, the issue of basically monitoring, it's been mainly having big concerns in the area of domestic workers. These are the real categories that they don't have this particular challenge because it's easier. But domestic workers, because they work in people's homes, the only thing as the Ugandan company we have is to ensure that this person has a smartphone. But we also have gone an extra mile of employing Ugandans in these particular companies in Saudi. Like I told you last time, Robert, I have 4 supervisors and a manager in Saudi Arabia, and their job is very simple. If there is a problem, if, for example, the family here complains that we've not heard from so-and-so in the last 3 weeks, for example, my job, my office here, is to alert the team in Saudi Arabia, please, can you call this particular sponsor or employer of so-and-so and find out the condition she's in, and why she's not speaking to her family here and stuff like that. That has been working. Secondly, if we have a big issue, then we involve our embassy. Our team there works with the embassy to gain access to this particular person. And that has been able to work for us. But remember, these partners we work with, they also have, legal departments. So their legal department works with our team to ensure this person receives the assistance they need in case there's something. But also, I know there is a review that is going to happen on these bilateral agreements that we've signed. I know the ministry came out I think last week, and they were clear that they're going to review these labor bilateral agreements we've signed so far to see how they can beef them up more to make sure that they take care of such issues. Yeah.
Well, just to remind our viewer that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by sending in your message, your question to our various social media platforms. And of late, you can also join the conversation on WhatsApp. Our number is on the screen. Send in your message, your question, or be part of this discussion in any way by simply sending us a WhatsApp message on 0709 60 25 92. 0709 60 25 92. We'll read out the message, and I know Ash will be able to respond to your question. Your views, your opinions are all welcome on the topic of discussion this morning, as we look at how best we can ensure that in case our Ugandans are stuck in any part, most of this time you're looking at the Middle East, and of course Afghanistan is in the picture as well, but remembering very well that when the ministry came out and clearly stated that we do not have Ugandans there. So that brings us to the entire part now of the Middle East, where we know we have Ugandans, and of course we've received a number of reports, sometimes alluding to the fact that there are acts of mistreatment, abuse of human rights, most when it comes to domestic workers. Please do not call that number. It is simply our WhatsApp number. We will not be calls if you go through, so it is important that you just use it to send us your message. And I'm ready. I'll be reading out many of the messages that come in. And Ashel Chitandwe, who is the CEO in Jersey Limited, one of the companies that does this noble cause of finding employment for Ugandans overseas. And of course, like we told you earlier, our government, really, we get a number of people going out to work, but also in return, there's so much that comes back home. About 1.4 billion US dollars every year is brought into the country by Ugandans in the Middle East. So how safe are they in case disaster strikes? How safe are they in terms of maybe an outbreak of war or in any eventuality? This is what we are focusing on this morning. Ashe, we know that you have Ugandans in the Middle East, away from domestic workers, we have professionals that are in the Middle East. But one of the things also has been extortion. That makes it very hard or very expensive to secure these employments. Apart from the domestic workers, I think, where they almost pay nothing because they have the visa, they have the medical, they have the passport, I think paid for. But these other professions, people, one would tell you that, Robert, I spent between 4 to 6 million seeking employment, and one would say, well, maybe you would have invested that into something else. Maybe. So why do we see this very expensive?
I'll tell you something very interesting, Robert. All countries where we've signed labor bilateral agreements, we actually sign general agreements touching all areas. That means it's supposed to be free. Or if there is some money to pay, it should be, somewhere small, or minimum, whatever you want to call it. And secondly, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, remember, it vets these job orders, and it's indicated, it's clearly indicated when you're applying for this job order approval, if the job is free, whatever the case is. Secondly, also, like I told you last time, we have a situation where we don't have labor bilateral agreements with some of these countries, and we are working with individual companies who go through HR consultancies. And these HR consultancies, they'll need a fee, for you to, for them to secure for you employment opportunities in company X. So because of exactly that, then you have to pay this recruitment fee, to this or commission to this particular HR consultant or consultancy, so that you're able to gain access to the actual jobs. So, and because the company here in Uganda wants to secure that opportunity, sometimes you pay bond, Yeah, they might ask you, deposit $50,000. So how do you handle the process without any guarantees? Secondly, maybe the job is 100,000. That's the commission. They say, okay, 50% has to be paid. Then you have to look for the other 50%. So where do you get that money, Robert? Because I'm securing you a job, Robert, I'm going to come to you and say, you know what, because of the ticket and da-da-da-da-da, pay me this much. Because I have to take care of that would-be issue. So, in the end, that's what happens. But if we have a labor bilateral agreement with that particular country, then, for example, in the UAE, we signed, but it has never been implemented. Because there are some issues the two governments are trying to discuss. And because of exactly that, then the HR consultancies are still taking advantage of that window. And of course, we are here to, Robert, provide a service. So what do? We have to find a way of raising this money. So that's the whole problem. That's the only problem. But once we have these bilateral agreements signed, and all these other categories are inclusive of in the agreements, then we don't have that problem, Robert. And I think that's where we're going.
Well, let me read some of the messages that are coming through. Ugandans living in these respective countries, do they have champions or platforms from which they can share and engage? This helps a lot on social capital, problem solving, and handling quite a number of issues. That is James Odeke Mutungo Bina. Thank you so much, Odeke, for your message. Then we have thanks, I'm Onesmus from Barara. He says, good morning, UBC. This is Onesmus from Barara. To me, such people are really stranded. He says, to me, such people are really stranded there because I guess some are focused on how to come back, but our fellow leaders are not minding about them. And what really hurts is hearing them planning on bringing other foreigners, that is the Afghans. Please save Ugandans outside. That's my opinion. Thanks, Onesmus from Bara. Thank you so much for being part of this show and the message. Then I have another one. Let me go through. Good morning, everyone. You know that many people who work abroad, mostly in the UAE, they all give bad news when they come back. We didn't get your name because you didn't put it there. Says many. He knows all have bad stories when they return.
Right. If you remember, Robert, I mentioned that the UAE is the easiest country to access through a visitor's visa. So what my fellow Ugandan there is saying, it might be true. Why do I say that? If you didn't go through the proper channels, of course you're going to have bad story. Yeah, because you're not legally there. Yes, you went through informal channels. So definitely you're going to have bad news, bad stories. But if you go through formal channels, definitely you're going to have good news. That's why, Robert, you're seeing this housing boom. I'm sure you know this, Robert. You know, many people who have gone through formal channels, they are doing wonderful things here. A lot of good things. People are building houses, people are doing what? Me, I normally get amazed. You know, someone comes to your office when they don't even have 10,000 shillings. You touch your pocket, give them that money. After 2 years, someone comes back and she's telling you, because of you guys, I've been able to buy a plot, I've been able to build a house, I've been able to renovate my parents' house, I've been able to pay school fees.
Actually, yesterday I was interacting with one success story that is in Kawempe. He's called Musa. He went with some company in the Middle East and he was in that dog section. So this guy has a lot of knowledge regarding dog breeding. So I visited this young man deep in Kawempe and Bogo. And he has a few rentals, but he has what they call quality in terms of breeds and knowledge. And I asked him, well, how did you get this? He said, my breakthrough was when I went to the Middle East, and I went as a security guard, put in that dog section. He's doing great.
That is it, Robert. So let us encourage our people to go through formal channels. And yes, I'm not saying when you go through formal channels, you won't get issues. Yes, issues can be there, but we have a better way of handling those issues and make your work, make your opportunity more productive, you know, and more relevant.
We have one who asked, that is if there is a platform where these people can share and have, that is James Odek from Mutungo.
James, I really want to thank you for that very good question. And yes, James, we have different forums where, and this is very clear to our teams. But you see, sometimes for reasons best known to some other people, they prefer pushing these to other forums. Yeah, but yes, we have forums where all these issues are normally handled, and sensitization is done. Thank you.
We have Tumusime from Hoima. Why don't you help poor people who take them? Then you deduct your input from his salary. Okay. Why don't you help poor people? You take them, then you deduct your input from their salary.
Right. He's called?
That is Tumusime.
Tumusime
from Hoima.
From Hoima. Tumusime, thank you very much for that question. Truth of the matter is that from experience, many companies here, they've actually done this. But of course, you know, Ugandans are very interesting. Once they get there, they're no longer interested in paying back. And that brought a very big problem to very many companies. But putting that aside, we're also working with some government agencies through our leadership to see how these people can be financed. And that the ministry and the relevant organizations will come out and make it clear very soon. But yes, we're trying to see how we can help our fellow Ugandans.
Well, there's a message I must read because the person first said, I'm sending my message. Please help me read it. He says, good morning, I'm Charles Onyango from Bwebaja, Entebbe. I'm requesting that gentleman in studios to read us his contact number. That is what he's saying. And finally, Ono Augustan Mbuya, Afghanistan, Bajadi to Besunze. Oh no, this is a bit off track, but actually, in the interest of time, we must end it at this.
Right, Robert. But you see, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, Robert. It brings excitement. You know, when people go to other countries, there is an excitement it brings. You know, you relate, you learn from different cultures and stuff like that. So for me, it's not a new thing because we've been to these other countries where our fellow Ugandans go and work, and it's interesting. You know, people want to learn all these things. But to answer, he was called some. I lost his name, but my number, I'll give you my office number. That's the official number. It's 0707 681 801. 0707 681 801. Yes, you can reach me on that.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Ashe, for having found time and being part of this topic. The good news is, according to the ministry and Ashe has alluded to the same fact, would not have Ugandans stranded in Afghanistan unless proof is seen. But of now, that is the stand. I just want to thank you so much. Remember, very important, yes, seeking employment in any other part of this world is very okay. But please go through the right channels.
Right.
Because in case of eventuality, then you can be brought back home safe. If you're trafficked, if you escape and move away from your contract, then it is hard to locate you more so. God forbid, in case there's an outbreak of war, a strange disease, and so many uneventualities. Let's stay safe. COVID is still with us. Please wear that mask, social distance, disease from crowded places, and embrace vaccination. Teachers, no jab, no job. God bless you.